The guests had already taken their seats. The music was playing, the flowers were perfectly arranged, and standing at the entrance of the grand wedding hall was Amelia Hart, wearing the most beautiful dress she had ever seen. Everyone thought it was going to be the happiest day of her life. But nobody knew that behind the elegant smile of the woman standing beside her was a plan designed to destroy her. Her own stepmother, Victoria Hart, had spent months preparing a public humiliation that would ruin Amelia's reputation, end her marriage before it even began, and take away everything her late father had left behind. Victoria believed she had planned the perfect revenge. She believed Amelia would walk down that aisle as a bride and leave as a woman who had lost everything. But Victoria made one mistake. She forgot that secrets have a way of coming to light, and she never imagined that the person she was trying to destroy had already discovered the truth. Before we begin, tell me in the comments, if someone you trusted like a parent betrayed you on the most important day of your life, would you forgive them or make sure they face justice? Now, let's begin. Amelia Hart grew up believing that love could heal any wound. When she was 8 years old, her world changed forever. Her mother, Eleanor, disappeared. There was no goodbye, no explanation, no final hug. One day, Eleanor was there, holding Amelia's hand as they walked through their family garden. The next day, she was gone. For years, Amelia waited for her mother to come back. She kept her mother's old necklace under her pillow every night. She believed that one day, Eleanor would walk through the front door and explain everything. But that day never came. Her father, Richard Hart, tried his best to raise her alone. He was a successful businessman who built the Hart family company from nothing. To the outside world, he was powerful, respected, a man who seemed to have everything. But inside their home, he was simply a father trying to raise a little girl who missed her mother. "I promise you," Richard told Amelia one night as she cried herself to sleep, "you will always be loved." And he kept that promise. Until the day he met Victoria. Victoria was charming, elegant, warm. She knew exactly what to say and when to say it. When Richard introduced her to Amelia, she didn't try to replace Eleanor. At least, that was what she wanted Amelia to believe. She knelt beside the little girl and smiled. "I know you already have a mother," Victoria said softly, "and I know I can never take her place." She held Amelia's hand. "But if you allow me, I would love to be someone you can always count on." Those words meant everything to Amelia, because she was a child who desperately wanted someone to call family again. Slowly, Victoria became part of her life. She helped Amelia with school. She attended her performances. She comforted her during difficult moments. When Amelia turned 16, Victoria was the person who helped her choose her first formal dress. When Amelia graduated, Victoria cried louder than anyone. And when Richard passed away 3 years before Amelia's wedding, Victoria held her while she broke down. "You still have me," Victoria whispered. "You are my daughter." Amelia believed those words with all her heart. She never knew they were coming from someone who was secretly waiting for the perfect moment to betray her. After Richard's death, Amelia inherited control of the Hart family assets, the family company, the properties, the investments her father had built for decades. But Victoria couldn't accept it. She believed everything should belong to her. After all, she had spent years playing the role of the perfect wife and mother. In her mind, she deserved the reward. Not Amelia, a young woman she considered too emotional and too trusting. Victoria often complained to her daughter Chloe behind closed doors. "She has no idea how the world works," Victoria said. "She thinks kindness is enough to survive." Chloe looked at her mother. "But she has everything." Victoria's expression hardened. Not for long. Chloe knew exactly what her mother meant. She had always been jealous of Amelia. The attention, the respect, the life she had. And now, even Amelia's wedding was another reminder, because Amelia was marrying Daniel Carter, a successful businessman from a respected family, a man who loved Amelia before he knew how much money she had, and that was something Victoria could not tolerate, because she had another plan. She wanted Chloe to have Amelia's life, her wealth, her status, her future. The wedding was going to be the biggest event the Hart family had hosted in years, a beautiful estate, hundreds of guests, business partners, family friends, people from the highest circles of society, and Victoria knew exactly what she would do. She would destroy Amelia in front of everyone. Her plan was simple. First, she would reveal documents claiming Amelia had secretly hidden money from the family company. Then she would present a story suggesting Amelia had manipulated Daniel into marrying her for financial security. Finally, she would reveal a shocking secret about Amelia's mother. Victoria knew the accusation would spread immediately. People would whisper, guests would question Amelia's character, Daniel would be forced to choose between his love and his reputation, and when everything collapsed, Victoria would step in as the person everyone trusted, the grieving stepmother, the woman who had always protected Amelia, the woman who deserved control. She had planned every detail, but there was one thing she didn't know. Daniel Carter already knew something was wrong. 2 months before the wedding, Victoria asked Daniel to meet her privately. She arrived carrying a folder. "Daniel, that's so Thames," she said, placing it on the table. "You need to know the truth before you marry Amelia." Daniel opened the folder. Inside were documents, claims, accusations, stories designed to make Amelia look dishonest. Victoria leaned forward. "I'm trying to protect you." Daniel looked at her calmly. "Protect me? From Amelia?" Victoria nodded. "She isn't the innocent woman you think she is." But Daniel knew Amelia. He knew the woman who stayed late at hospitals helping strangers, the woman who donated anonymously, the woman who cried when she saw people suffering, the woman who never cared about wealth. So instead of believing Victoria, Daniel started investigating, and what he discovered changed everything. Because the woman Amelia trusted most had been hiding the truth for years. Daniel Carter had always believed that the truth did not need to be forced. It revealed itself when you searched hard enough. After Victoria's strange meeting with him, he quietly began looking into the documents she had shown him. At first, he thought maybe there was some misunderstanding. Maybe Victoria was simply worried. Maybe she was just an overprotective mother. But the deeper he looked, the more questions appeared. The documents Victoria presented contained information that did not match the official records of the Hart family company. Some signatures were suspicious, some dates were impossible, and some financial transfers led back to accounts controlled by Victoria herself. Daniel spent weeks gathering information without telling Amelia, not because he didn't trust her, but because he didn't want to hurt her until he had proof. Then, one evening, he found something that changed everything. An old security file hidden in the Hart family estate, a recording from years ago, a conversation between Victoria and someone Amelia had never expected. The audio was damaged, but one sentence was clear. "She can't know what happened to Eleanor." Daniel froze. Eleanor, Amelia's mother. The woman everyone believed had simply disappeared. For years, Amelia had lived with the pain of losing her mother, but Daniel now realized something terrifying. Eleanor's disappearance was not an accident. Someone had made sure she vanished, and Victoria knew exactly what happened. Daniel wanted to tell Amelia everything, but every time he looked at her, he saw how happy she was. She was excited about their wedding. She was finally allowing herself to believe she had found a family again. She had spent her whole life feeling abandoned. The thought of telling her that the woman she called mother might have destroyed her real mother broke his heart. So Daniel made a decision. He would not let Victoria ruin Amelia's wedding. He would let Victoria expose herself, and he would make sure the whole world saw the truth. The morning of the wedding arrived. The Hart estate looked like something from a dream. White flowers decorated the garden. Crystal lights hung above the ceremony area. Guests arrived dressed in their finest clothes. Everyone talked about how beautiful the wedding was. Everyone except Victoria. She stood in front of the mirror inside her room, adjusting her expensive jewelry. She looked at herself and smiled. Today was the day. Today Amelia Hart would lose everything. Chloe walked into the room. "Are you sure this will work?" Victoria smiled confidently. "By the end of today, everyone will see Amelia differently." "And what about Daniel?" Victoria laughed. "Men like him care about reputation. Once he sees the truth about her, he will walk away." What Victoria didn't know was that Daniel was already several steps ahead. Amelia stood in her room, wearing her wedding dress. She looked beautiful, but she wasn't thinking about the guests. She wasn't thinking about the wealth or attention. She was thinking about one person, Victoria, her stepmother, the woman who had helped her survive her darkest moments. When Victoria entered the room, Amelia smiled. For a moment, she was that little girl again, the girl who believed she finally had a mother. "You look beautiful," Victoria said. Amelia smiled. "Thank you." Then she hugged her. "I don't know what I would have done without you." For a brief second, Victoria looked uncomfortable, because Amelia's love was real, and that made what she was about to do even colder. Victoria pulled away. Today is going to change everything. Amelia smiled. Yes, it really is. But they both meant different things. The guests watched as Amelia walked down the aisle. Daniel stood waiting for her, his eyes filled with emotion. Not because of the dress, not because of the beautiful ceremony, but because he knew this woman had spent her entire life searching for love, and he promised himself he would never allow anyone to hurt her again. The ceremony began, the vows were exchanged, everyone smiled. Then, just before the officiant announced them husband and wife, Victoria stood up. Stop. The entire room went silent. Amelia turned around. Victoria? Her stepmother walked forward slowly. I'm sorry, Amelia. Her voice sounded sad, almost believable. But everyone here deserves to know the truth. A wave of whispers spread through the room. Daniel's expression changed. He knew this moment had arrived. Victoria pulled out a folder. I have evidence that Amelia has been lying to everyone. The guests gasped. Amelia stared at her. What are you talking about? Victoria looked at the crowd. For years, Amelia has pretended to be innocent. But she has been hiding things about her family's money and her mother's disappearance. The room became silent. Amelia felt like the ground disappeared beneath her, because the person attacking her was the person she trusted most. Victoria opened the folder. These documents prove that Amelia secretly transferred family assets before this wedding. People started whispering. Is that true? I can't believe it. Amelia looked at Daniel. For the first time, she looked afraid. Not because she believed the accusations, but because she was terrified he would believe them. Victoria noticed, and she smiled. This was the moment she had waited for. Daniel, she said softly, I know this is painful, but you deserve better than someone who used you. The room waited for Daniel's reaction. Victoria expected anger, shock, disappointment. She expected him to walk away. Instead, Daniel stepped forward and smiled. Thank you, Victoria. Everyone looked confused. Victoria smiled back. You're welcome. Daniel turned toward the guests. But there is something you should know. He looked at Amelia. Amelia and I have known about this plan for weeks. The room went completely silent. Victoria's smile disappeared. What? Daniel nodded toward the large screen behind the ceremony stage. Please show them. The screen turned on, and Victoria saw her own face, her own voice, her own plan, playing for everyone to see. The entire wedding hall became silent. No one moved, no one spoke. Everyone stared at the screen behind the ceremony stage, and then Victoria heard her own voice, her own words, recorded conversations she thought nobody would ever hear. The first video showed Victoria sitting in her private office with Chloe. I've waited years for this, Victoria said in the recording. Once Amelia marries Daniel, everyone will think she has everything, but after today, she will have nothing. The guests gasped. Chloe covered her mouth. Her face turned pale. The recording continued. She has no idea what I've done. She still thinks I love her like a daughter. Amelia stood frozen. Her eyes filled with tears, not because she was surprised, but because hearing those words from someone she loved hurt more than any accusation ever could. For years, she had defended Victoria. For years, she had told people, she's not my stepmother, she's my mother. And now everyone could see the truth. Victoria looked around the room in panic. This is fake. She pointed at Daniel. You created this. Daniel calmly shook his head. No, Victoria. He looked at the guests. These recordings came from security cameras installed in the Hart estate years ago. Victoria's face changed. What? Daniel continued. Your biggest mistake was believing nobody was watching. Daniel looked toward Amelia. There is something else you need to see. The screen changed. A different video appeared, and the moment Amelia saw the man sitting in the recording, she stopped breathing. Her father, Richard Hart, a man she had lost 3 years earlier. Amelia, his voice filled the room. If you are watching this, it means something happened that I feared would happen. Tears immediately filled Amelia's eyes. Her father looked older in the recording, but his voice was still strong. I need you to know something. I never wanted you to carry the burden of my mistakes. The guests watched quietly. After your mother disappeared, I spent years searching for answers. I discovered that there were people around us who wanted control of our family. Richard paused. One of those people was someone I trusted. Everyone looked at Victoria. She looked away. Richard continued. Victoria was not the woman she appeared to be. Amelia covered her mouth. She had spent years believing her father's second marriage had saved their family. Now she was learning it had almost destroyed it. I created a legal protection for you, Richard said. The family assets, the company, and everything I built were placed under your name, with conditions that no one could take control from you. Victoria's eyes widened. No, Richard continued, and I left evidence proving what happened to your mother. The entire room froze. Suddenly, the doors of the wedding hall opened. Everyone turned. A woman stood there, older, tired, but familiar. Amelia looked at her. At first, her mind refused to understand what she was seeing. Then the woman whispered, Amelia. The necklace around the woman's neck caught the light. The same necklace Amelia had kept for 20 years. Her heart stopped. Mom? The room erupted with shocked whispers. Eleanor Hart, Amelia's mother, the woman everyone thought was gone forever, was alive. Amelia couldn't move. She couldn't speak. Then she ran. She ran across the room and fell into her mother's arms. For the first time in 20 years, Amelia cried like the little girl who had been waiting by the door hoping her mother would return. Why did you leave me? Amelia whispered. Eleanor held her tightly. I never left you. She looked toward Victoria. She made sure I had no way to come back. The room became silent. Eleanor stepped forward. Victoria was never interested in our family. She looked at Amelia. She wanted your father's wealth. When I discovered what she was planning, I threatened to expose her. Victoria shouted, Don't listen to her. But Eleanor continued. She arranged for me to be taken away from this family. She paid people to make it look like I abandoned my daughter. The guests looked horrified. Amelia looked at Victoria, the woman who had comforted her, the woman who had promised to protect her, the woman who had stolen her mother. Why? Amelia asked. Her voice was broken. Why would you do this to me? For the first time, Victoria had no perfect answer. Her mask was gone, because the world was finally seeing who she really was. But Victoria was not ready to lose. You think you've won? She screamed. You think everyone will believe this? She pointed at Amelia. She was always weak. She needed me. Amelia looked at her, and something changed. The girl who once begged for Victoria's love was gone. I needed a mother, Amelia said quietly, but I never needed a liar. The room went silent. Victoria stared at her. Amelia continued. You spent years trying to take everything from me. She looked around at the guests. My father's name, my family, my mother, my happiness. She paused. But you forgot one thing. Victoria frowned. What? Amelia smiled slightly. The truth doesn't stay buried forever. Within weeks, the evidence from the recordings and documents led to a full investigation. The financial crimes were exposed. The false documents were proven fake. Victoria lost control of everything she had tried to steal. The woman who spent years pretending to be powerful had nothing left. No reputation, no influence, no family willing to defend her. Even Chloe finally admitted the truth. I thought you were building a better life for us, she told her mother, but you were destroying everyone else's. Months later, Amelia and Daniel finally had the wedding they deserved. A smaller ceremony, a peaceful one, no lies, no secrets, just love. Eleanor sat beside Amelia as she prepared to walk down the aisle. I'm sorry I missed so many years, Eleanor whispered. Amelia smiled through tears. We can't change the past, she held her mother's hand, but we can choose what happens next. And when Amelia walked toward Daniel that day, she wasn't walking as the woman who had been abandoned. She was walking as the woman who survived. The woman who discovered her strength. The woman who learned that family is not always the people who share your blood. Sometimes family is the person who stands beside you when everyone else tries to tear you down. If this story touched you, tell us in the comments, do you think Amelia should have forgiven Victoria, or was justice the only answer? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more emotional stories about love, betrayal, secrets, and unforgettable revenge, because sometimes, the people closest to us can hurt us the most, but the truth always finds its way home.